Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Today's hadith is from the chapter of good company. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, he narrates from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who said that الرجل على دين خليلي فلينظر أحدكم من يخالل. This is in Abu Dawood and Tirmidhi. He says that a person is, the literal translation would be, a person is on the deen of his friend. So see and be careful who you choose as a friend. Meaning that, your deen can be affected by who you hang around, who you spend time with, who is, part of your group, your squad, your circle, who you're interacting with on a day-to-day basis. And we know it, we can call it as peer pressure, and we have different terms for it, but all of these things are a reality. And there are many ayat in the Quran that warn us about this as well, and even the other narrations, like the famous narration by the Prophet ﷺ, where he gave the example of a good company to a perfume seller, and bad company analogy was to a person who is a blacksmith, who works with iron, who blows the bellows, right? So a person who has good company is like a person who is going into a fragrance shop. Either you would end up buying some fragrance, or he may give you the fragrance for free, or if not, at least you would get to smell some good fragrance. When we spend time with good people, with people of taqwa, with people who are the friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we'll learn something from them. And even if we don't learn anything, at least we were in their company and we benefited from that barakah just being there. Many times it's actually interesting when we go to the majalis of great scholars, and people who are not accustomed to it, when we go with them, they'll go there and they'll sit with the shaykh, and the shaykh is not saying anything. And they're like, this is so boring, like no one's talking, nothing's happening. And those who have been to these majalis, who have visited great scholars, they don't talk that much. You can see when you sit with them, there's very little interaction, and people will just be sitting around, and here and there they may say a sentence or two, but just being there in itself is the barakah that is coming down, the mercy that we get from that, the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the special attention that is coming down in those areas or in those places, you end up benefiting from that. Just like how when you walk into a fragrance shop, the same thing happens. Whether you buy something, whether you get a fragrance or not, you end up smelling good at least at the end when you walk out. And similarly, the example was of a person who goes by a blacksmith, or who goes into some kind of shop where there's a lot of dust and there's a lot of dirt, and the fire is burning and the coals are sparking. If you go there, even if you don't interact, even if you don't touch anything, it's possible that some coal or some spark may ruin your clothes. It may rip right through it, if not, if your clothes are safe, even when you walk out, you'll still be smelling like smoke. Like you can tell, mashallah, on the weekends, if someone barbecued and they come to the masjid after that, you can tell, right? And the person can tell himself because he's smelling the barbecue for days sometimes in those clothes because of that smoke. So when you're with bad company, even if you're not drinking alcohol because they're drinking alcohol, or you're not smoking weed because they're smoking weed, but just being in that environment has such a bad effect that Rasulullah ﷺ was warning of it. And there's two examples that come to mind from the Quran. One is on the first page of the 19th juz, where the Prophet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about the incident where on the day of Qiyamah the person will be biting his fingers with his fingertips, and so hard, because he's like, I wish I didn't make that person a friend. Because he'll realize on that day, there's a whole incident, I'm not going to go into that, but on that day, at the time when the Prophet ﷺ was in Makkah, he was invited, and the person at the end of the story, the person ended up spitting on his face because his friend told him to, on the Prophet ﷺ's face. On the day of Qiyamah, this person will see that because of his friend telling him to spit on his face, he will see what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has in store for him. And then he'll be biting his fingers. I wish I didn't make that person my friend. So many times we have people in our circles, or many times we have people that we hang out with, and we think that they're friends, we call them friends, but if they don't wish us good, if they do not remind us of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if they do not bring us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and at the bare minimum, if they are not pulling us away from bad, then are they really our friends? This is something for us to ask ourselves. Look deep within our circles and see who we're hanging out with, who we're spending time with, and is that having a better effect or a worse effect? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to have good company and stay in good company. Ameen wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام وتبارك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين اللهم أجرنا من النار اللهم أجرنا من خزي الدنيا وعذاب الآخرة اللهم ادخلنا الجنة بغير حساب وتوفنا مسلمين غير خزايا ولا ندامى ولا مفتونين اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب اللهم إنا نسألك رضاك والجنة ونعوذ بك من سخطك وغضبك والنار اللهم ادخلنا الجنة بغير حساب اللهم ادخلنا الجنة بغير حساب وتوفنا مسلمين غير خزايا ولا ندامى ولا مفتونين اللهم إنا نسألك من خير ما سألك منه نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ونعوذ بك من شر ما استعاذ منه نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وأنت المستعان وعليك البلاغ ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Just one important announcement. The youth cottage trip is coming up at the end of August. The registration is open. It is for ages 16 plus. If you want to register, or if you have any children who want to register, I would suggest registering as soon as possible. The registration is going to close within 2 to 3 days, and there's only a few spots left. So inshallah, if you want to register, please go ahead and register. The details are on the WhatsApp group. Jazakallah khair.